To the outside world, it looks like a fairy tale love match, but behind closed doors, the reality is a nightmare. My husband stands before me, constantly reminding me that I am nothing but damaged goods. My education, my dreams, they are all meaningless to his fragile ego. He actually seems to feed off my tears and helplessness. Has the man I love truly changed, or has the mask finally slipped to reveal a cold-blooded psychopath? Why did he turn into such a monster? Within just 6 months of us moving to Europe, he knew my past when he accepted me. So why is he now weaponizing it to destroy me piece by piece? Will all my sacrifices be enough to save this marriage, or have I unknowingly walked into a trap with no way out? I'm Emma. Let's dive in and uncover the chilling truth hidden behind this perfect relationship. The silence in the apartment wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums, demanding to be heard. I sat on the edge of my bed in Toronto, the glow of my phone screen illuminating the anxiety etched into my face. It was 3 a.m. here, which meant it was morning in Europe. He should be awake. He should be checking his phone. But the screen remained dark. My thumb hovered over his name, Liam, my husband, the man who was supposed to be my safe harbor after a lifetime of storms. I wanted to call him, to hear his voice, to ask him why he felt so distant lately. But my finger trembled and pulled back. Fear, a cold, slithering fear that I was annoying him, that I was too much, that I was damaging the fragile thread holding us together. It's funny how trauma works. You think you've buried it, poured concrete over it, and built a skyscraper of success on top of it. But in the quiet moments, in the dark, the ghosts seep through the crack. To understand why I sat there, paralyzed by the fear of sending a simple text to my own husband, you have to understand the girl I used to be. You have to understand the scars that I thought had faded into white lines but were suddenly throbbing again. I wasn't always this fragile. Or maybe I was, and I just learned to wear armor. My story, the real story, didn't start with Liam. It started 6 years ago, right after I graduated college. I was 22, bright-eyed, naive, and desperate to please my parents. In our culture, a daughter's degree is often just a placeholder until the wedding invitation is printed. So, when they brought a proposal from a good family, I agreed. Let's call him Mark. Mark was charming. He had a smile that could disarm a room, and a way of looking at you that made you feel like the only person in the world. My parents saw his family's reputation. I saw a fairy tale. We got married in a whirlwind of gold jewelry, red saris, and promises that felt etched in stone. But the stone crumbled before the honeymoon was even over. It started with small things. The mood swings, the erratic sleeping hours, the way his eyes would glaze over, turning from warm chocolate to cold, dead marbles. I was young. I didn't know the signs. I didn't know that the medicine he took for his headaches was actually a cocktail of opioids and narcotics. My parents didn't know. No one knew. We had married a stranger. 2 months in, the facade broke completely. I found out about the girl, his ex. She wasn't just a memory, she was a constant presence, a shadow in our marriage. When she decided she wanted him back, she simply snapped her fingers. And Mark, he didn't defend me. He didn't choose his wife. He turned on me. I remember the first time he raised his hand. It wasn't a slap, it was a shove that sent me crashing into the dresser. The physical pain was sharp, but the mental shock was paralytic. He screamed at me, blaming me for his unhappiness, blaming me because his ex had come back apologizing. He would get high, losing all touch with reality, and I became his punching bag, both verbally and physically. You're useless, he would slur, his eyes bloodshot. She loved me. You're just here. I endured it for 6 months. 6 months of hell. 6 months of hiding bruises with concealer and hiding tears with fake smiles at family dinners. But the girl inside me, the one who had graduated with honors, the one who had dreams, wasn't dead yet. She was just hibernating. One night, after a particularly violent episode where he smashed my phone against the wall because I asked him where he had been, something in me snapped. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. I packed a single bag. While he was passed out, I walked out the front door into the cold night air, and I didn't look back. The divorce was messy. In our community, a divorced woman is often looked at with pity or suspicion, as if she carries a contagious disease. Damaged goods, that's the label the whispers gave me. But I didn't care. I was free. I swore to myself then, never again would I let a man define my worth. Never again would I be weak. I channeled all that pain, all that rage into my career. I went back to school. I got my master's degree from one of the top universities in the country. I worked harder than anyone else in the room. While my friends were posting engagement photos, I was posting promotions. I built a life that was impenetrable. I became a corporate shark, polished, articulate, independent. I bought my own car, rented a beautiful apartment downtown, and wore my success like a shield. And then there was Liam. Liam wasn't a stranger. We had known each other since our university days. He was the guy in the back of the class with the messy hair and the easy laugh. We were friends, just friends. He saw me through the post-divorce phase. He was there when I was rebuilding myself. He knew everything. He knew about Mark, about the drugs, about the abuse. He knew about the damaged goods label, and he treated it like a badge of honor. You're a survivor, Emma, he told me once, sitting across from me in a coffee shop, his eyes full of admiration. You're the strongest woman I know. That was the trap. I didn't fall for his money. He didn't have much. I didn't fall for his career. He had dropped out of college just before graduation due to personal reasons and was struggling to find his footing. I fell for his acceptance. I fell in love with the idea that someone knew my darkest, ugliest history and still looked at me like I was the sun. We dated for a few years. It was easy. It was safe. I was the high flyer, the breadwinner, the one with the plans. He was the supportive partner, always there to listen to my work rants, always there to tell me I was beautiful when I felt bloated or tired. I thought I had found the balance. I thought I had won. But when we decided to get married, the ghosts of the past resurfaced. Not from me, but from our families. Liam's family was complicated. They were from a specific region with a very specific, rigid culture. They were demanding. They were proud. And to them, I was a problem. She's divorced, his mother had said, not even lowering her voice to me when I was in the next room. She's older. She's too independent. Why do you want her when you can have a fresh flower? A fresh flower, that's what I was compared to. A wilted petal versus a fresh bloom. My parents weren't much better, though for different reasons. They were terrified. They saw Liam's lack of a degree, his financial instability, and the geographic distance between our ancestral homes as red flags. He hasn't finished school, Emma. Can he take care of you? My father had asked. I can take care of myself, Dad, I had replied sharply. I just want someone who treats me like a human being. I fought for him. God, I fought so hard. I convinced my parents that his heart was what mattered, not his wallet. I swallowed my pride when his mother made passive-aggressive comments about my salary being higher than her son's. I ignored the red flags because I was so focused on the finish line. A happy, safe marriage. We compromised. No big wedding, no grand reception to show off the divorced bride. We had a small, intimate court marriage, a kabinema done in the living room. It was quiet. It was understated. But to me, it felt like a victory. I was finally starting my happily ever after. But life, as I was about to learn, has a cruel sense of humor. Immediately after the wedding, literally days later, Liam got the news. His work visa for a European country had been approved. It was a massive opportunity, one that could finally put him on a career path similar to mine. We were ecstatic. The plan was simple. He would go, set up a base, and I would wrap up my life here and join him in a few months. I remember standing at the airport, watching him check his bags. He looked different that day. There was a nervous energy about him, a shift in his posture. I'm going to miss you, I said, burying my face in his chest, inhaling his scent one last time. He hugged me back, but his arms felt looser, distracted. Yeah, he said, looking over my head at the departure screens. It's going to be a lot of work, Emma. I'm going to be really busy. I know, I said, pulling back to look at him. But we'll talk every day. We'll FaceTime. It won't feel like we're apart. He gave me a tight, thin-lipped smile. Right. Every day. He walked through the security gates, and he didn't turn back to wave. Not once. I stood there for 10 minutes, watching the empty space where he had been. A strange pit forming in my stomach. I brushed it off. Don't be paranoid, I told myself. He's just stressed. He's moving to a new continent. It's not about you. I drove back to my parents' house, that night alone. Since Liam and his mother insisted that I shouldn't live alone in my apartment while he was gone. What will people say? I had resigned from my high-paying job in the city and moved back into my childhood bedroom in the suburbs. It felt like a step backward, physically and metaphorically. I was a 26-year-old woman with a master's degree, sleeping in a twin bed, waiting for my husband to call. That was 6 months ago. Now sitting here in the dark at 3 a.m., the silence was deafening. The man who had boarded that plane was not the man who was currently ignoring my messages. The change hadn't been sudden. It was a slow, agonizing erosion. It started with missed calls. Sorry, fell asleep. Then came the short replies. Busy. Later. Then the criticism. I looked at the mirror on my wardrobe door. Even in the dim light, I could see the outline of my figure. I had gained a little weight, maybe 10 or 15 pounds. My thyroid had been acting up, throwing my hormones into chaos. I was fighting it, going to the gym, eating salads while my family ate rice and curry. But to Liam's mother, I was a failure. In our village, when a boy marries, the girl brings gold, she would say over tea, her eyes scanning my body. And the girls are slim. You look healthy, maybe too healthy. I never told Liam. Or when I did, I laughed it off, expecting him to defend me, expecting him to say, Mom, stop it, she's perfect. Instead, on our last video call 3 days ago, he had squinted at the screen. Are you eating late at night? He asked. No, why? Your face looks puffy. You know, over here in Europe, people are really fit. You need to fit in when you come here, Emma. Don't embarrass me. The line had gone dead before I could respond. He said the connection failed, but I knew he had hung up. My thumb hovered over the call button again. My heart hammered against my ribs, not with love, but with dread. Why was I so afraid of my own husband? Why did I feel like I was walking on eggshells across an ocean? I tapped the screen. The phone rang. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? His voice was groggy but sharp, impatient. Hey, I whispered, my voice trembling. I wanted to hear your voice. I missed you. There was a pause, A long, cold pause that stretched across the Atlantic. "Emma," he sighed, the sound dripping with annoyance. "It is morning here. I have work. Do you have nothing better to do than disturb me? Stop acting so clingy. It's pathetic." Click. He hung up. Again. I stared at the phone, the word pathetic echoing in the empty room. Tears pricked my eyes, hot, angry tears. This wasn't the Liam I knew. This wasn't the friend who had held my hand through my trauma. This was someone else, someone colder, someone who was slowly, methodically peeling away my confidence layer by layer. I didn't know it then, but this was just the beginning. The man I had married to escape my past was about to use that very past to lock me in a cage far worse than the one I had fled. I lay back on the pillow, clutching the phone to my chest, staring at the ceiling. The sun was rising in Europe, but in my world, the darkness was just settling in, and I had no idea that the real storm hadn't even hit me yet. There is a specific kind of suffocation that doesn't come from a lack of oxygen. It comes from the slow, methodical shrinking of your world. It comes when the walls you built to protect yourself suddenly start moving inward, inch by inch, until you are standing on your tiptoes, gasping for air in a room full of people who tell you to just breathe normally. I used to be a woman who commanded boardrooms. I had a corner office with a view of the city skyline. I had a key card that beeped when I tapped it, a sound that validated my existence. I belong here. I am important. I drank iced Americanos, wore tailored blazers, and made decisions that moved money across accounts. I was Emma, independent, fierce, untouchable. Now I was just a wife in waiting. I had traded my blazer for a cotton salwar kameez, my corner office for the guest room in my parents' house, and my independence for a set of invisible shackles handed to me by my husband and his family. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of Tuesday where I should have been in a strategy meeting. Instead, I was sitting on the living room sofa, staring at a cup of tea that had gone cold, listening to my mother-in-law on speakerphone. "Emma, did you go out today?" Her voice crackled through the phone. It wasn't a question, it was an interrogation wrapped in polite concern. "No, Ma," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I stayed home. I was just organizing some paperwork for the visa." "Good," she purred. "You know how people talk. A young woman, husband abroad. If you are seen wandering around the city alone, it looks bad. It reflects poorly on our family. We have a reputation to maintain." Reputation. That word was the lock on my cage. When Liam left for Europe, the decree had been handed down swiftly. "You cannot stay in your apartment alone," his mother had said. "It's not safe. Plus, what is the need for a job now? Liam will earn in euros. You should prepare yourself to be a homemaker. Rest, heal your body." It sounded like care. It sounded like they wanted to pamper me. But the reality was starkly different. They wanted me contained. My parents, terrified of rocking the boat of my second marriage, agreed instantly. "Listen to them, Emma," my dad had whispered. "They are a good family. Don't be stubborn." So I quit. I resigned from the career I had built from the ashes of my first divorce. I moved back in with my parents. But even here, in the house where I grew up, I wasn't free. I was living under the remote surveillance of the in-laws. "And tell me," his mother continued, her tone shifting to that sickly sweet pitch she used when she was about to twist the knife. "Have you lost any weight this week? I sent you that diet chart." My hand instinctively went to my stomach. The thyroid medication made me feel bloated, sluggish. I was trying. God knows I was trying. I was starving myself half the time, but the scale wouldn't budge. "I'm trying, Ma. It's a medical issue," the doctor said. "Excuses," she cut me off. "In our family, women take care of themselves. Liam is a handsome boy. He is in Europe now. He sees European women every day. Slim, smart women. Do you want him to lose interest? We took you in despite everything. You should at least try to look the part. Despite everything. The code word for my divorce. The code word for my tainted history." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted metallic blood. "I will try harder," I whispered. "Good. Also tell your father that the jewelry for the reception, whenever we have it, needs to be heavy. People are asking what the bride brought. We have to tell them something." She hung up. I sat there, the silence of the room screaming at me. I wanted to scream back. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall, but I didn't, because the new Emma, the redeemed Emma, was submissive. She was grateful. She didn't have anger issues. She didn't react. I picked up my phone to text Liam. I needed him to tell me I was enough. I needed him to be the buffer. Me. "Hey, miss you. Your mom called. She's really pressuring me about the weight and the dowry stuff. Can you just tell her I'm doing my best? It's hurting me, Liam." I waited. 1 hour, 2 hours. He was online. I could see the green dot. Finally, a reply popped up. "Liam, why are you always complaining about my mother? She just wants what's best for you. She wants you to be healthy. Stop being so sensitive and about the money/jewelry stuff. It's just culture, Emma. My family has high standards. My cousins got way more when they got married. You're lucky my parents aren't asking for cash directly." I stared at the screen, my vision blurring. Lucky, that word again. I typed back, my fingers shaking. "I gave up my job for this, Liam. I'm living off my savings. I have no income. I feel like a prisoner." Liam. "Oh, here we go. The drama queen. You didn't give up anything. You're preparing for a better life in Europe. Do you know how much I'm working here? I'm exhausted, and I come home to your whining. If you want to be a modern feminist, go back to your empty apartment. But don't expect me to be waiting for you." He blocked me. For the third time this week, I dropped the phone on the cushion and walked to the window. Outside, the world was moving. Cars were driving by. People were walking to work. Birds were flying. Everyone was going somewhere. Everyone except me. I was stuck in a golden cage. The bars were made of culture and expectations, and the lock was my own desperate need to not fail at marriage a second time. That evening, dinner was a quiet affair. My mother piled rice onto my plate, her eyes full of pity she tried to hide. "Eat, Emma, you look pale." "I can't, Mom. I'm not hungry," I said, pushing the rice around. If I ate, I was fat. If I didn't eat, I was ungrateful. "Liam called," my father said, looking up from his newspaper. My head snapped up. "He called you?" "Yes. He sounds stressed." My father took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "He said the cost of living there is higher than he expected. He was asking if we could assist." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Assist? You mean send money?" "He said it's a loan," my dad said quickly, trying to pacify me. "Just until he gets his first few paychecks settled. He wants to rent a bigger apartment so you can move there faster. It's for you, Emma." A cold knot formed in my stomach. Liam had a job. A good job. Why did he need money from my retired father, and why didn't he ask me? Because he knew I would ask questions. He knew I would ask to see the lease. By going to my father, he was bypassing my logic and appealing to my father's desperation to keep his daughter's marriage intact. "Dad, don't send him money," I said, my voice rising. "He has a salary. He hasn't even sent me a single dollar since he left. I'm using my savings for my medical bills." "Emma, lower your voice," my mother hissed, glancing at the neighbor's window. "It's a husband's right to ask. If we don't help, his family will say we are stingy. Do you want them to treat you badly?" "They already treat me badly," I cried out, standing up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Don't you see? They are stripping me of everything, my job, my confidence, and now your money." "Sit down." My father's voice was stern. It was the voice of a man who was tired of fighting society. "We have already spent so much getting you out of that first mess. We cannot afford a second divorce, Emma. If a few $1,000s keeps the peace, we will pay it." I looked at them, my parents. They loved me, I knew that, but they loved their honor more. They were hostages to society just as much as I was. I ran to my room and slammed the door. I grabbed my phone, desperate to find a lifeline. I opened my bank app. My savings were dwindling. Without a salary, I was burning through my emergency fund just to pay for my thyroid treatments, therapy, which I was hiding from everyone, and the random gifts I had to buy for his relatives to keep them happy. I felt a sudden wave of nausea. I wasn't just losing myself, I was being erased. I sat on the floor, leaning against the bed, and pulled out an old photo album I kept under the mattress. It was from my university days. There was a photo of me and Liam. We were sitting on the campus lawn laughing. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, my hair wild and messy. He was looking at me with what I thought was adoration. "You're the smartest girl I know," he had said back then. Where was that guy? Was he ever real? Or was he just a mirror, reflecting what I wanted to see until he had me trapped? Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text message. Not WhatsApp, but a regular text. It was from Liam. He had unblocked me just long enough to send one message. "Liam, your dad agreed to send the money. Good. At least someone in your family knows how to respect a son-in-law. By the way, cancel your therapy sessions. I saw the withdrawal on your bank statement. You don't need a shrink. You need to learn how to be a wife. Save that money for your ticket. I'm not paying for you to come here." My breath hitched. He had access to my bank account? I scrambled to check. Years ago, when we were dating, we had opened a joint savings account for a future trip, and I had linked my personal checking to it for easy transfers. I never unlinked it. He could see everything. Every coffee, every doctor's visit, every therapy session. He wasn't just distant. He was watching. He was monitoring. I felt a chill run down my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. This wasn't just a bad marriage. This was a surveillance state. I went to reply, to scream, to demand he stop, but the message bubble turned green to gray. Blocked. Again. He had dropped the bomb and walked away, leaving me to pick up the shrapnel. I stood up, my legs shaky. I walked to the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired. Her eyes were puffy, her skin pale. She looked like the damaged goods they said she was. But then I saw something else. Deep in the pupils of my eyes, there was a spark. A tiny, flickering ember of the old Emma, the Emma who had walked out of an abusive marriage once before, the Emma who had climbed the corporate ladder. "Cancel the therapy," he had said. "I'm not paying for you," he had said. I looked at the reflection and whispered, "No." I didn't know how I was going to fight this. I didn't know how I was going to escape this golden cage when my own parents were guarding the door. But as I stared at my reflection, I realized something terrifying. Liam wasn't changing because of the distance. Liam was changing because he finally had me where he wanted me. Powerless. But he had made one mistake. He forgot that I had already survived hell once, and I knew the smell of sulfur. Just as I was about to turn away from the mirror, my phone buzzed again. A notification from Instagram. It was a DM from a woman I didn't know. The profile was private, no photo. My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened the message. It was a screenshot. A screenshot of a Facebook post from a group called Expats in Europe. It was the photo of a party. In the background, holding a drink, laughing with his arm around a blonde woman, was Liam. He looked happy. He looked single. And the caption read, "New city, new life. Finally free from the baggage back home." The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a thud. The cage wasn't just locked, it was burning. The phone screen stared up at me from the floorboards, glowing like a radioactive isotope. That photo, that caption. Finally free from the baggage back home. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely pick it up. I zoomed in on the image until the pixels blurred. There was Liam, my husband, the man who had claimed he was working late every night for the past month. He was wearing a shirt I had ironed for him before he left, a crisp blue linen. His arm was draped casually, possessively, over the back of a chair occupied by a woman with platinum blonde hair. She was laughing, her head thrown back, a glass of wine in her hand. But it wasn't the woman that made my stomach churn with acid. It was Liam's face. He looked alive. Back here, when he spoke to me, his face was a mask of boredom or irritation. But in that photo, he looked electric. He looked like the man I had fallen in love with on campus years ago, and he was looking at her. I sat on the floor, the cold wood seeping into my legs, and felt the physical sensation of heartbreak. It's not a sharp pain like a knife. It's a dull, heavy collapse of your chest cavity. It feels like drowning in slow motion. Baggage. That's what I was. Not his wife, not his partner. Baggage. I did something I knew I shouldn't do. I called him. It was midnight in Toronto, which meant it was early morning there. He wouldn't answer. He never answered. Ring, ring, ring. What? The voice was sharp, startled. He had answered. Liam? My voice was a whisper, a pathetic croak. Emma? Jesus, do you know what time it is? I'm getting ready for a meeting. What is wrong with you? I saw the photo, I blurted out. The words tumbled over each other. On the expats page, the one with the blonde woman, the one where you said you were free of baggage. There was a silence on the other end, a long, calculating silence. I waited for an apology. I waited for him to say, "Oh my God, Emma, that's a misunderstanding. Let me explain." Instead, he laughed, a cold, dry chuckle. You're stalking me now? Seriously, I go to a networking event to secure my future, our future, and you're cyber stalking me from thousands of miles away. This is exactly why I call you baggage, Emma. You're so heavy. You drag everything down. Networking, I choked out, tears finally spilling over. You had your arm around her chair. You looked happy. You never look happy with me anymore. Because she's a colleague, Emma. She's a professional. She doesn't whine about her thyroid or her feelings every 5 minutes. She's an adult. God, you are so insecure. It's embarrassing. Do you think I can focus on my work when I have a wife acting like a jealous teenager back home? He was twisting it. He was taking my legitimate pain and turning it into a defect in my character. It was a magic trick I was beginning to learn well. The great gaslight. I'm not a teenager, I said, trying to steady my voice. I'm your wife, and you're hurting me. You're hurting yourself, he snapped. Look, I have to go. Unlike you, I have a job. I have a life. Stop checking up on me. It makes you look desperate. Click. He hung up. Again. I sat there for hours, the silence of the house pressing in on me. The worst part wasn't that he hung up. The worst part was that for a split second, I believed him. Maybe I was being crazy. Maybe it was just a networking event. Maybe I was just baggage because of my past trauma. That is the insidiousness of emotional abuse. It makes you question your own reality until you are looking at the sky and agreeing that it's green, just to keep the peace. Over the next few weeks, the distance between us grew from an ocean to a galaxy. He stopped calling completely. Our communication was reduced to text messages, and even those were one-sided. I would send him updates about my day, about the paperwork for my visa, about my parents. He would reply with a thumbs-up emoji, or nothing at all. But while his words disappeared, his criticism amplified. It started with the suggestions. He would send me links to Instagram profiles of fitness influencers, European women with washboard abs and impossibly long legs. This workout looks good. You should try it. Might help with the puffiness. Then came the direct attacks. I sent him a selfie one afternoon. I had dressed up, put on some lipstick, and gone to a cafe just to feel human again. I thought I looked nice. I thought maybe, just maybe, he would see me. His reply came 2 hours later. Why are you wearing that color? It makes you look washed out. And is that a double chin? Emma, I told you to watch the carbs. When you come here, you're going to be meeting my boss. I can't introduce you if you look like a frumpy housewife. I ran to the bathrooms and scrubbed the lipstick off until my lips bled. I stared at myself in the mirror, grabbing the soft flesh around my waist. My thyroid condition made it nearly impossible to lose weight quickly, but to him, it was just a lack of discipline. It was a moral failing. I stopped eating dinner. I started spending 3 hours a day at the gym, punishing my body on the treadmill until I felt dizzy. I wasn't doing it for health. I was doing it to earn the right to be loved by my own husband. But the stranger across the ocean was never satisfied. One evening, about 3 months into his departure, he finally agreed to a video call. My parents were out at a family function, so I had the house to myself. I set the stage perfectly. I adjusted the lighting. I wore a black top because black is slimming. I contoured my face with makeup to hide the puffiness. When his face appeared on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. He looked handsome, but his eyes were cold, dead, like a shark swimming through dark water. "Hey," I said, forcing a bright smile. "You look great." He didn't smile back. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You're 5 minutes late." The connection was bad," I stammered. "I'm sorry." "Whatever," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "So, what's the update? Did you get the visa interview date?" "Not yet," I said. "The embassy is backlogged, but I wanted to talk about us, Liam. I feel like we're drifting apart. I feel like I don't know you anymore." He rolled his eyes, visibly. "Here we go. The feelings talk. Emma, I am building a life here. Do you know how hard it is? I have to learn a new culture, a new language. I don't have time to coddle you." "I'm not asking to be coddled," I cried, my composure cracking. "I'm asking to be treated with respect. You block me, you ignore me, you critique my body. Why did you marry me if you hate me so much?" A question hung in the air. Liam stared at me through the screen, his expression unreadable. Then a slow, cruel smirk spread across his face. "You really want to know?" he asked softly. "Yes, I married you because I felt sorry for you," he said. The words were calm, precise, like a surgeon making an incision. "You were damaged goods, Emma. Everyone knew it. Your first husband wrecked you. You were desperate. I thought, hey, she's smart. She makes good money. She'll be grateful. I thought you would be a low-maintenance wife who would worship the ground I walked on because I saved her from being a lonely divorcee." I couldn't breathe. It felt like he had reached through the screen and crushed my windpipe. "But you're not low maintenance," he continued, his voice dripping with venom. "You're annoying. And now that I'm here, I realize I sold myself short. I could have had anyone. I walk down the street here, and women look at me. Successful women, beautiful women. And then I look at my phone, and I see you, crying, complaining, gaining weight." "Stop," I whispered. "Please stop." "You wanted the truth," he shrugged. "The truth is, Emma, you're an anchor, and I'm trying to sail. You should be grateful I haven't served you papers yet. Most guys would have dumped you the second they got a better option, but I'm a nice guy. I'm sticking around. For now." "A nice guy?" He actually believed it. He believed he was the hero of this story. "I have to go," he said abruptly, checking his watch. "I have a dinner reservation." "With who?" I asked, my voice trembling. "None of your business. Go to the gym, Emma. Fix yourself. Then maybe we can talk about you coming here." The screen went black. I didn't cry this time. I couldn't. I was in shock. The cruelty was so absolute, so casual that it numbed me. "I married you because I felt sorry for you. You are damaged goods." I sat in the dark room, the laptop screen casting a ghostly blue light on my face. I felt stripped naked. My education, my career, my kindness, my love, none of it mattered. To him, I was just a broken toy he had picked up from the clearance bin and now regretted buying. But amidst the numbness, a tiny spark of suspicion ignited. "Dinner reservation?" He had said he was broke. He had borrowed money from my father just last week for rent. If he was broke, how was he going out to dinner? How was he living this high life he bragged about? I remembered the joint account, the one he thought I was too stupid or too submissive to check. I opened my banking app. My hands were steady now, cold and steady. I navigated to the joint savings account. Balance, $12.45. It was almost empty. My father had sent $5,000 2 weeks ago. Where did it go? I clicked on transaction history. My eyes scanned the list, and with every line, the picture of the struggling husband disintegrated. October 12th, The Velvet Lounge, $150. October 14th, Sephora Paris, $200. October 15th, Hotel Le Grand, $350. October 18th, Tiffany Company, $450. Sephora? Tiffany Company? Liam didn't wear makeup. Liam didn't wear jewelry. And he certainly wasn't buying these things for me. I scrolled down further. October 20th, Airbnb Venice, $600. Venice. He had told me he was working that weekend. He had told me he was too busy to talk because of a deadline. He was in Venice, and looking at the charges for 2 dinners, 2 museum tickets, 2 train passes, he wasn't alone. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't just abusive. He wasn't just a narcissist. He was stealing from us, from my father, from our future, to fund a life with someone else. I felt a wave of nausea, but this time it wasn't fear. It was rage. Pure, cold, white-hot rage. He thought I was weak. He thought I was the damaged girl who would sit in the corner and cry while he played king with my money. He thought he had broken me. But he forgot one thing. When you break something, you create sharp edges. And as I stared at those bank statements, I realized that Emma, the victim, was dying. And Emma, the survivor, was waking up. I took a screenshot of the transactions. Then I opened his Facebook profile. I looked at the photo again. The blonde woman. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to find out who she was. And then I was going to burn his world down. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I had just discovered that while I was eating boiled vegetables and skipping dinner to save money for our future, my husband was buying Tiffany jewelry for someone else in Paris. The glow of my laptop screen was the only light in the room. It was 4 a.m. in Toronto. My eyes were dry, gritty, and burning, but my mind was operating with a cold, terrifying clarity. I looked at the bank transfer screen. I had one move left. It was dangerous, it was reckless, but I wasn't the submissive wife anymore. I was a woman under siege. I clicked transfer. I moved every single remaining cent, the paltry $300 left after his spending spree, out of our joint account and into my personal account. It wasn't about the money, it was a signal. It was a flare shot into the dark sky to see if the monster would look up. Then I waited. The reaction was almost immediate. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated on the nightstand. It wasn't a call. It was a notification from WhatsApp. Liam is typing. My heart hammered against my ribs. A bird trapped in a cage. I stared at the green text bubble, waiting for the explosion. Liam. Card declined. Trying to pay for a cab. What did you do? I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I typed back slowly. Me. I moved the money. We're over budget. I needed to secure the funds for my thyroid medication. I waited. The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. He was hesitating. He was calculating. Liam. Put it back. Now. I'm with colleagues. Don't embarrass me. Me. Use the cash you withdrew last week. The statement says you took out 500 euros. Silence. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. I watched the screen, waiting for the fight. I was ready to scream, ready to unleash the accusations about the jewelry, the hotel in Venice, the lies. I wanted the confrontation. I needed the explosion to clear the air. But the explosion never came. Instead, the profile picture at the top of the chat, a photo of us from our wedding day, suddenly vanished. It was replaced by a gray, faceless silhouette. I tapped on his name. Last seen recently. I sent a message. Liam? 1 gray tick. It didn't turn blue. It didn't turn into 2 ticks, just 1 lonely gray tick. He had blocked me. This was his new weapon. It wasn't a fist. It wasn't a curse word. It was the digital silence. Ideally, in a modern relationship, blocking is a tool for safety, used to shut out harassment, but in the hands of a narcissist, it is a torture device. It is a way of saying you do not exist unless I allow you to. I sat there, staring at that single gray tick, and I felt the air leave the room. He had cut the cord. He had stolen my voice. For the next 3 days, I lived in a state of suspended animation. I didn't leave the house. I barely spoke to my parents. I walked around like a ghost, clutching my phone, checking it every 5 minutes, praying for the block to be lifted. It's a sickness, really. You know they are hurting you, yet you crave the notification that says they've returned. On the 4th day, he unblocked me. No apology, no explanation, just a text at 2 p.m. Liam, are you done having your tantrum? I stared at the message. My blood boiled. Me. Tantrum? You spent our savings on jewelry and hotels. Liam, who is she? Liam, stop, just stop. You are so paranoid. The jewelry was a gift for my boss's wife. It's called corporate etiquette. The hotel was for a conference. You don't understand how business works here. You're acting like a village girl. Me. And blocking me? Is that business too? Liam, I learned it from you, Emma. There it was. The ace up his sleeve, the ultimate deflection. Liam, remember when we were dating? Remember when you got mad because I was late and you blocked me for 2 hours? You taught me this. You showed me that when someone is being annoying, you shut them out. I'm just following your rules. Why are you upset now? I typed furiously, my fingers hitting the wrong keys. Me. That was 5 years ago. I was 21. I was immature. We are married now. You can't just disappear. Liam. I don't care. If you annoy me, I block you. It's simple. If you want access to me, behave. Be a good wife. Put the money back. Apologize for accusing me. And maybe I'll FaceTime you this weekend. Behave! Like I was a dog. Like I was a child. He blocked me again before I could reply. I threw the phone onto the bed and let out a scream of frustration that I had been holding in for months. I buried my face in my pillow and sobbed until my throat was raw. It was maddening. He was rewriting history. Yes, I had anger issues in the past. Yes, I had been reactive, but I had done the work. I had gone to therapy. I had apologized 1,000 times. He was using my past mistakes to justify his present cruelty. He was punishing the woman I was today for the sins of the girl I used to be. I lay there for hours, the silence of the room mocking me. But as the tears dried, something else began to take hold, a cold, hard resolve. He thinks I'm stupid, I thought. He thinks I'm just a jealous, insecure wife who will eventually cave and send the money back. He was wrong. I wiped my face and sat up. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. Okay, Liam, I whispered to the empty room. You want to play games? Let's play. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was an investigator. I had worked in corporate risk management for 3 years before I quit. I knew how to find things. I knew that people leave digital footprints everywhere, even when they think they are invisible. I started with the photo, the one from the Expats in Europe group. I had screenshotted it before he made me feel crazy. I cropped the image to focus on the blonde woman. I ran a reverse image search. Nothing. No direct matches. She wasn't a celebrity or a stock photo model. She was a real person. I went back to the Facebook group. I scrolled through months of posts. I looked for comments. I looked for tags. And then I found it. A post from 3 weeks ago, a group selfie at a bar. Liam was in the background, blurry but recognizable. Tagged in the photo was a user named Sophie V. I clicked on Sophie's profile. It was locked, private, but her bio read, living the dream and city name, marketing executive, dog mom, marketing executive. Liam worked in sales. Same company? Maybe. I went to LinkedIn. I searched for Sophie V in his city. Bingo. Sophie Vanderhoven. There she was. Professional headshot. The same platinum blonde hair. The same confident smile. She worked at the same company as Liam. I scrolled through her recent activity. She had posted a photo 2 weeks ago, a picture of a hand holding a coffee cup against a scenic canal backdrop. The caption, weekend getaway in Venice. Magic. Venice. The same weekend Liam was there. The same weekend the Airbnb charge appeared on our statement. I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't a conference. It wasn't corporate etiquette. He was with her. But I needed more. A coffee cup wasn't proof. He would say they were just colleagues at the same event. He would call me crazy again. I needed something undeniable. I went to Instagram. Her profile was public there. I scrolled through her feed. It was a curated collection of a perfect life. Lattes, sunsets, gym selfies. And then I saw it. A post from 5 days ago. A video, a boomerang of clinking champagne glasses. In the corner of the frame, resting on the table, was a man's hand. On the wrist was a watch. A silver watch with a cracked leather strap. My gift to Liam for our first anniversary. He never took it off. I stared at the watch on the screen. I could see the scratch on the bezel where he had banged it against a door frame last year. There was no denying it. That was Liam. And he wasn't just having a drink. The caption read, date night with my favorite human, #soulmate, #new beginnings. Soulmate. New beginnings. The air left my lungs. He wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just having a fling. He was living a double life. To me, he was the stressed, struggling husband who needed money and understanding. To her, he was what? Her boyfriend? Her partner? Did she even know I existed? I looked at the timestamp. 5 days ago. That was the day he had told me I was fat and needed to lose weight before I came to Europe. He was tearing me down to build himself up for her. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I could comment right now. I could type, cute watch. My husband has the exact same one. I could blow his world apart in 5 seconds, but I stopped. If I did that, he would delete everything. He would spin a story to her. He would paint me as the crazy ex or the stalker he had warned her about. He was a master manipulator. He would win. No, I needed to be smarter. I needed to know what he had told her. Was I the crazy ex-wife? Was I the cousin? Or did she think he was single? I created a fake Instagram account. No profile picture, a generic name. I followed her. And then I did something that made my stomach turn. I went to Liam's mother's Facebook page. His mother, who criticized my weight, who demanded dowry, who told me to be submissive. She had posted a photo yesterday. A picture of Liam. Caption, my son working hard abroad. So proud of you. And there in the comments was Sophie. Sophie had commented, he is the best, and Liam's mother had liked the comment. The room spun. His mother knew. His mother, who lectured me daily about being a good wife, was interacting with his mistress on social media. They were all in on it. The coldness, the demands for money, the delay in my visa. It wasn't just Liam. It was a conspiracy. They were milking me for my savings, using me to fund his life there, all while he built a new future with this Sophie woman. And once the money ran out, or once he got his permanent residency, I would be discarded. I wasn't just in a bad marriage. I was the victim of a long con. A guttural sound escaped my throat. Half laugh, half sob. It was the sound of a woman realizing she had been sleeping next to wolves. They thought I was weak. They thought I was desperate to keep the title of wife because of the stigma of my first divorce. They thought they could bleed me dry, and I would say, thank you. I looked at the phone, at the gray tick of the block. You made a mistake, Liam, I whispered, my voice shaking with a terrifying calmness. You taught me how to block people? Okay. But you forgot one thing. I opened a new tab on my browser. I searched for immigration laws for spousal visa fraud. I searched for how to report financial abuse. I wasn't going to beg him to unblock me anymore. I wasn't going to send the money back. I picked up my phone. I didn't text Liam. Instead, I opened the DM of Sophie Vanderhoven. My fingers trembled, but I forced them to move. I didn't accuse. I didn't scream. I typed one simple sentence, a sentence that would plant a seed of doubt in her perfect champagne-filled life. Hi, Sophie. I love the watch in your recent post. Does the owner of that watch happen to mention a woman named Emma who pays for his rent? I stared at the message. If I sent this, there was no going back. The war would begin. But looking at the like his mother gave her comment, looking at the empty bank account, looking at the mirror where a damaged girl stood, I knew I had no choice. I was done being the victim. I pressed send. The message showed sent, then seen. My heart stopped. She was online. She had read it instantly. I saw the 3 dots appear. Sophie is typing. The adrenaline spiked through my veins like electricity. The silence was over. The noise was about to begin. Sophie is typing! The 3 little dots danced on the screen, mocking the rhythm of my heart. I held my breath, my thumb hovering over the glass, waiting for the explosion. I expected anger. I expected confusion. I expected, "Oh my God, who are you?" The message popped up. Sophie. "Oh, honey, he told me about you." My stomach dropped. The air in the room seemed to vanish. I stared at the words, blinking, trying to make sense of them. Sophie. Liam said his crazy ex-girlfriend from back home might try to reach out. He said you have trouble letting go. He said you're mentally unstable and that you've been stalking him for months. Please respect our privacy. If you contact me again, I will have to report you to the police here for harassment. Blocked. The screen went still. I sat there, frozen. The phone slipped from my sweaty palm and landed on the duvet. A sound escaped my lips. A dry, ragged gasp. Ex-girlfriend. Stalker. Mentally unstable. He had won. Before I even entered the ring, he had rigged the game. He knew me. He knew I was tenacious, he knew I was smart, and he knew that eventually I would find out. So he had built a fortress of lies around his new life, using my own history as the bricks. He hadn't just cheated on me, he had erased me. To this woman, to his colleagues, to his new world in Europe, Emma the wife didn't exist. There was only Emma, the psycho ex. Suddenly, my phone began to ring. It wasn't a WhatsApp call, it was a direct international call. The screen lit up with the name that used to give me butterflies, but now made me want to vomit. Liam. I stared at it. Ringing, ringing. Vibrating like an angry hornet. I knew I shouldn't answer. I knew anything he said now would be poison. But the rage inside me was overriding my survival instinct. I wanted to hear him say it. I wanted to hear the lie from his own mouth. I swiped green. "You think you're smart?" His voice was low, terrifyingly calm. It wasn't the voice of a man caught in a lie. It was the voice of a predator who had been inconvenienced. "I know the truth, Liam," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "I saw the watch. I saw the comments. You're living with her. You're spending our money on her." "There is no our money," he spat. "There is my money. And there is the pittance your father sends to beg me to stay married to his damaged daughter." The cruelty of the words took my breath away. "How could you? You told her I'm your ex. You told her I'm a stalker. We are married, Liam. We signed the papers. My parents treat you like a son." "Papers," he scoffed. "A piece of paper doesn't make you a wife, Emma. Look at you. You're a mess. You're a burden. Do you think a woman like Sophie, a woman who is successful, fit, beautiful, would look at me twice if she knew I was legally shackled to a baggage train like you?" "I am not the baggage," I screamed, tears streaming down my face. "I am a human being. I supported you. I believed in you when you were nothing. I took you to therapy. I healed you." "You didn't heal me," he roared, his mask finally slipping. "You infected me. You dragged me down into your misery pit. You think because your first husband beat you, the whole world owes you a favor? You think because you're a survivor, you get a free pass to be annoying?" Silence. The line crackled with static. He had gone there. He had crossed the line. I thought even he respected. "Mark," I whispered, the name of my abusive ex tasting like ash in my mouth. "Don't you dare bring him into this." "Why not?" Liam laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "Mark was a bastard, sure, but living with you for the last 6 months, honestly, I'm starting to see his point. You drive men crazy, Emma. You provoke them, you nag, you cry, you play the victim card so well. Maybe Mark wasn't the problem. Maybe you are the common denominator." The world tilted on its axis. It was the ultimate weapon, the nuclear bomb of emotional abuse. He was using my trauma, the physical and emotional scars I carried from a violent man, to justify his own betrayal. He was telling me that I deserved it, that I was unlovable, that I was the reason men hurt me. I felt a physical pain in my chest, sharp and agonizing. It felt like my heart was actually breaking, tearing apart fiber by fiber. "You're a monster," I choked out. "No, Emma, I'm a man who wants to be happy," he said, his voice dropping back to that chilling calm. "And I was happy until 5 minutes ago when you decided to ruin it." "I ruined it," I laughed hysterically. "You're sleeping with another woman, and I'm going to keep sleeping with her," he said flatly. "Because she treats me like a king. She doesn't ask me where I've been. She doesn't check my bank account. She doesn't need reassurance every 5 minutes. "Then divorce me," I said. "Let me go. Be with her. Why are you keeping me trapped here?" "Because," he sighed as if explaining something to a slow child, "I need the residency, and your father's money helps. And honestly, my mother likes the idea of having a daughter-in-law back home to serve her. It's convenient." "I am not a servant," I whispered. "You are whatever I say you are," he snapped. "Now listen to me carefully. You are going to fix this. You are going to message Sophie from a different account. You are going to tell her you are my mentally ill cousin who has an obsession with me. You are going to apologize. You are going to say you made it all up." "I will never do that," I said. gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "If you don't," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "I will post the videos." My blood ran cold. "What videos?" "You know, the ones from our honeymoon, the intimate ones, the ones you trusted me with." I stopped breathing. There weren't many. Just a few moments of privacy, of trust, between a husband and wife. Things I had let him record because I loved him, because I thought we were partners. "You wouldn't," I gasped. "Try me," he said. "I'll post them everywhere. I'll send them to your conservative relatives. I'll send them to your father's colleagues." Imagine the shame, Emma. A twice-divorced woman, exposed like that. Your parents won't be able to show their faces in society. Your father might just have a heart attack. Do you want that on your conscience? I fell to my knees. The floor was hard against my shins, but I couldn't feel it. I was numb. This wasn't a marriage. This was a hostage situation. "Please," I sobbed. "Liam, please don't do this. Just leave me alone. I won't say anything, I promise." "That's not enough," he said. "I need you to clear my name with Sophie. She's suspicious now. You made a mess, Emma. Clean it up. You have 24 hours. Fix it, or the videos go public and put the money back in the account. I have a dinner to pay for." Click. The line went dead. I stayed on the floor, curled into a ball, shaking uncontrollably. The room was spinning. The walls felt like they were closing in, crushing me. I had thought the rock bottom was the divorce from Mark. I thought rock bottom was the beatings. But this was a different kind of hell. This was psychological annihilation. He had taken my past, my trauma, my body, and my trust, and turned them all into a loaded gun pointed at my head. Maybe he's right. A voice whispered in the back of my mind, the voice of the depression that had been stalking me for months. Maybe I am the problem. 2 marriages, 2 failures. Mark hit me. Liam hates me. I am the common denominator. I am damaged goods. I looked at the window. It was pitch black outside. The world was asleep. No one knew. No one knew that in this quiet suburban house, a woman was being murdered without a single drop of blood being spilled. I crawled into the bathroom. I needed to splash water on my face. I needed to wake up from this nightmare. I gripped the sink, staring at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red and swollen. My hair was matted. My skin looked gray. I looked at my stomach, the extra weight that Liam hated so much. I looked at the scars on my arm, faint white lines from the time Mark had thrown me into a glass table. "You're pathetic," I whispered to my reflection. "He's right. You let this happen." But as I stared, something shifted. I saw the phone sitting on the bath mat where I had dropped it. "You have 24 hours. I'll send them to your father." Fear is a powerful motivator. It can make you run. It can make you hide. It can make you beg. But when fear pushes you into a corner where there is no exit, sometimes it transforms. It turns into something primal. I thought about my father, my gentle, quiet father who had spent his life savings to get me out of my first marriage, who was sending money he didn't have to Liam, just to see me happy. If Liam released those videos, it would kill him. Not metaphorically. It would literally break his heart. Liam was counting on that fear. He was counting on me being the good daughter who would sacrifice herself to save her family's honor. He was counting on me being the victim. But he had made a miscalculation. He compared me to Mark. He said I was the reason Mark hit me. That triggered something deep inside my brain. A switch that had been taped over for years suddenly flipped. I remembered the night I left Mark. I remembered the terror of opening that front door. But I also remembered the cold night air hitting my face, the taste of freedom. I had survived a monster before. Mark used fists. Liam used words and technology. But they were the same. They were bullies. And bullies only have power as long as you are afraid. I washed my face. I scrubbed the tears away with a rough towel until my skin burned. I picked up the phone. I didn't open WhatsApp. Instead, I opened my email. I composed a new email. To Liam's company HR department. To the Immigration Bureau of country name. I didn't send it yet. I just typed the subject line. Subject, visa fraud and misconduct, Liam Ahmed. Then I opened a cloud storage app, the one Liam didn't know I had. I uploaded the screenshots of the bank transfers. I uploaded the screenshots of his mother's comments on Sophie's photo. I uploaded the shots of Sophie's message calling the stalker. And then I recorded a video. I sat on the bathroom floor, propped the phone up against the tub, and pressed record. "My name is Emma," I said to the camera. My voice was shaky but clear. "And if you are watching this, it means my husband, Liam Ahmed, has carried out his threat to release intimate images of me to blackmail me into silence. I am making this statement to protect myself, my family, and to tell the truth that he is trying to hide." I told the whole story. I spoke for 10 minutes. I didn't cry. I spoke with the cold, hard precision of a woman who has nothing left to lose. I saved the video. I set it to a dead man's switch. If I didn't log in to cancel it every 24 hours, it would automatically be emailed to everyone. To his boss, to Sophie, to his family, to my family. He thought he held the detonator. He didn't know I was building a bomb of my own. I stood up. I looked in the mirror one last time. The damaged girl was gone. In her place stood a soldier. "You want a war, Liam?" I whispered. "You want to weaponize my wounds?" I touched the scar on my arm. "These wounds aren't my weakness," I said. They are my armor, and you just picked a fight with the wrong survivor. I walked back into the bedroom. I had 24 hours, and I wasn't going to use them to apologize. I was going to use them to hunt. The sun came up over Toronto like a slap in the face. It was a bright, cheerful Tuesday morning. Birds were chirping, neighbors were starting their cars, and the world was spinning forward, completely indifferent to the fact that my life was hanging by a thread. I had 12 hours left, 12 hours until Liam's deadline expired, 12 hours to humiliate myself, to destroy my own credibility, and to paint myself as a psycho stalker to the woman sleeping with my husband. If I didn't, the man I had vowed to love and cherish would press a button and upload the most private moments of my life to the internet, sending them to my conservative family, my father's colleagues, and everyone who mattered. I sat at the kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee in front of me. I hadn't slept. My eyes felt like they were filled with sand. My body ached, a deep, marrow-level ache that comes from carrying too much fear for too long. My phone buzzed. It was him. Of course it was him. He was enjoying this. He was probably sitting in a cafe in Europe, sipping an espresso, getting a dopamine hit from torturing me across the ocean. Liam. TikTok, Emma. I haven't seen the screenshot of your apology to Sophie yet. Don't make me do something we'll both regret. Well, mostly you. I stared at the screen. The urge to vomit was sudden and violent. I ran to the sink and retched, but nothing came up. I was empty. I looked at the reflection in the kitchen window. The woman staring back at me looked haunted. Her hair was a mess, her skin pale and blotchy. This was the woman Liam saw. The damaged goods, the fat wife, the burden. For the last 6 months, I had believed him. When he said I was crazy, I checked myself into therapy. When he said I was fat, I starved myself. When he said I was annoying, I silenced myself. I had spent every waking moment trying to fix me, convinced that if I could just be perfect enough, the abuse would stop. But as I wiped my mouth and leaned against the counter, a thought struck me. It was a quiet thought, but it rang through my mind like a church bell. What if I'm not the problem? I walked back to the table and opened my laptop. I didn't open the apology draft I was supposed to send to Sophie. Instead, I opened a new browser window. I had always been a researcher. It's what made me good at my corporate job. I knew how to find patterns in data, and Liam was nothing, if not a pattern. I typed in a name I hadn't thought about in years. Sarah Miller. She was Liam's girlfriend before me. Back in university, they had dated for 2 years. I never knew her well. She was a year ahead of us. I remembered Liam telling me they broke up because she was crazy. She was obsessive, he had told me on our first date. She tried to control me. She was super insecure. At the time, I had nodded sympathetically, thinking, poor guy, I'll be different. I'll be the cool girlfriend. Now those words echoed in my head with a chilling familiarity. Obsessive, insecure, crazy. It was the exact same script. I found Sarah on Facebook. She looked happy now. Married, 2 kids, living in Vancouver. I hesitated. This was insane. Reaching out to an ex from 5 years ago? But I was desperate. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I typed a message. My hands were trembling. Hi, Sarah. You don't know me, but I'm Emma. We went to university together. I'm married to Liam Ahmed. I know this is weird, but I need to ask you something. When you guys broke up, did he ever threaten you? Did he ever make you feel like you were losing your mind? I hit send. I expected to wait hours, or maybe never get a reply. The response came in 3 minutes. Sarah. Oh my God, Emma, is he doing it to you too? I stopped breathing. Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief. Pure, unadulterated relief. I wasn't crazy. Me. Yes, he's in Europe. He's cheating. He's blackmailing me with videos. He calls me damaged. He says I'm the problem. The typing bubble appeared and stayed for a long time. Then a paragraph appeared. Sarah. Emma, listen to me very carefully. You are not the problem. That is his playbook. He did the exact same thing to me. He cheated on me with a girl from his dorm. When I found out, he told everyone I was bipolar. He threatened to send photos of me to my dad. He isolated me from my friends. It took me 2 years of therapy to realize I wasn't the crazy one. He is a malignant narcissist. He feeds on strong women. He breaks them down to feel powerful because deep down, he's a terrified little boy. I read the message over and over again. Every word was a key unlocking the chains around my mind. He feeds on strong women. He didn't pick me because I was weak. He picked me because I was successful, because I was resilient, because I had survived a divorce and built a career. Breaking me was a challenge. It was an ego boost for him. Sarah. He never released the photos, Emma. He's a coward. He's terrified of his reputation. If people knew who he really was, his mask would slip. He uses the threat because he knows it works. But if you call his bluff, he folds. He's a coward. I looked at the phone again. The terrifying monster who held my life in his hands was just a coward with a smartphone. I closed the laptop and walked into the bathroom. I turned on the light and stood in front of the full-length mirror. I stripped off my oversized t-shirt. I stood there naked, looking at the body my husband despised. I saw the soft curve of my stomach where the thyroid issues had left their mark. I saw the stretch marks. I saw the scar on my arm from Mark. For months, I had looked at this reflection and felt shame. I felt like a failure. But today, looking through the lens of Sarah's truth, I saw something else. I saw a body that had survived a violent marriage. I saw a brain that had earned 2 degrees and climbed the corporate ladder. I saw a heart that was capable of loving so deeply that it tried to heal a broken man, even at its own expense. "You are not damaged goods," I whispered to my reflection. My voice was raspy, but it was steady. "You are a fortress." I touched the glass. He wanted me to hate myself. He wanted me to be small, because if I was big, if I was powerful, he couldn't control me. The fat comments, they were designed to make me hide. The crazy label, designed to make me doubt my intuition. The blackmail? The last resort of a man losing control. A cold, hard rage began to replace the fear. It started in my stomach and spread to my fingertips. It wasn't the hot, chaotic anger of a victim. It was the icy, calculated fury of a prosecutor. I walked back to the bedroom. I had 6 hours left. I picked up my phone. I wasn't going to send the apology to Sophie. I was going to flip the board. I needed leverage, real leverage. Sarah said he was terrified of his reputation. He was in Europe on a work visa, a probationary work visa. I knew the terms because I had helped him file the paperwork. Good character was a clause in his contract. And his company, they were a high-profile tech firm. They had a zero-tolerance policy for harassment and ethical misconduct. I had the bank statements proving he was siphoning funds. I had the screenshots of his abuse. And now, thanks to Sarah, I had a pattern. But I needed one more thing. I needed to neutralize the video threat. Sarah said he was a coward, but I couldn't take a 1% chance with my father's heart. I needed to make sure that if he pressed that button, the consequences for him would be so catastrophic that he wouldn't dare. I remembered something. Liam used a password manager. He was lazy with security. He used the same master password for everything, his mother's birthday and his favorite soccer team. I had logged into his email once, years ago, to print a ticket for him. Did he change it? Probably not. Arrogant men rarely think they need to change their locks. I went to his email provider. I typed in his username. I typed in the password, Mom1965 Arsenal. Enter. The screen loaded. Incorrect password. My heart sank. He had changed it. Of course he had. I stared at the screen, biting my lip. Think, Emma, think. He's a narcissist. He's self-obsessed. What would his new password be? Something about himself, something about his new life, or something about her. I tried. Sophie, 2024. Incorrect. I tried. New Life Europe. Incorrect. I closed my eyes. I tried to get inside his head. When he looked at me, he saw baggage. When he looked at himself, what did he see? He saw a king. He saw a winner. I remembered the caption on his first photo in Europe. The king has arrived. I typed, the king has arrived. Incorrect. I was locked out. The panic started to creep back in. Then I remembered the security question. I clicked forgot password. The question popped up. Name of your first pet. I froze. Liam never had a pet. He hated animals. But I had a pet, a golden retriever named Buster who died when I was 10. I had told him stories about Buster. Would he use my answer? No, that didn't make sense. Unless he used the name of the dog he was currently living with. Sophie's bio said, Dog Mom. I scrambled back to Instagram. I found Sophie's profile on my burner account. I scrolled through her reels. There, a video of a small French bulldog. Sophie's voice in the video. Come here, Coco. Good boy, Coco. Coco. I went back to the email tab. Answer, Coco, enter. The screen blinked. Password reset link sent to recovery email. Wait, what was the recovery email? It showed a partial address, em@gmail.com*. My breath hitched. Emma. He had set my email as his recovery address years ago when we set up the account, and he had never changed it. He was so arrogant, so sure that I was under his thumb, that he hadn't even bothered to remove me as his failsafe. I opened my inbox. There it was. Password reset request. I clicked the link. I created a new password. Game over Liam, 2025. I logged in. I was in. I had access to everything. His emails, his drive, his Google Photos. My hands flew across the keyboard. I went straight to Google Photos. I found the folder. Honeymoon. There they were. The videos, the weapon he was holding against my head. I selected them all. Delete. Move to trash. Go to trash. Empty trash. Permanently delete. Gone. But he might have them saved on his phone or a hard drive. Deleting them from the cloud wasn't enough. I needed to own him. I went to his sent folder. I scrolled past the work emails and then I found it. An email chain with his mother. Subject. The plan. My blood ran cold. I clicked on it. Dated 2 weeks before he left for Europe. Liam. Don't worry, Mom. I'll keep her on the hook until I get the permanent residency. Her dad is good for the money. Once I'm settled, I'll file for divorce based on irreconcilable differences. I'll say she's mentally unstable. It's an easy case. Just play nice for a few months. Mother, just make sure you don't get her pregnant. We need the money, not the baby. Sophie is a much better match for our status. I stared at the screen. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound that it went beyond pain. It was clarity, pure, crystal clarity. They had planned this from the very beginning. The marriage was a sham. I was a piggy bank with a pulse. Sophie wasn't a mistake. She was the goal. I forwarded the email chain to myself. I went to his drafts. I found a letter addressed to his HR department. He was asking for a salary advance, claiming his wife back home was critically ill and needed surgery. He was using my fake illness to scam his company. I took a screenshot. I sat back in my chair. The fear was gone. The depression was gone. I looked at the clock. 1 hour left until his deadline. He thought I was scrambling to write an apology. He thought I was crying in a corner row. He didn't know that I was inside his digital brain, dismantling his life, wire by wire. I picked up my phone. I didn't text Sophie. I texted Liam. Me, I'm ready. He replied instantly. Liam, good girl, send the screenshot of the apology and put the money back. I smiled, a cold, dangerous smile that didn't reach my eyes. Me, I'm not talking about the apology, Liam. I'm talking about the truth. I just deleted the videos from your cloud. I also have the emails between you and your mother, titled The Plan. And I have the draft where you lied to HR about my critical illness. Oh, and I just had a lovely chat with Sarah Miller. Remember her? 3 bubbles appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. He was panicking. Me, you have 10 minutes, and if you don't transfer every single penny you stole from my father back into my account, and if you don't confess to Sophie yourself, I hit send. To your boss, to immigration, to Sophie, to everyone. The silence on the other end was deafening. I walked over to the mirror one last time. The woman looking back wasn't the girl who had cowered in the corner. She was the storm he never saw coming. Your move, coward, I whispered. 10 minutes! That's how long it takes to boil an egg. That's how long it takes to listen to 3 pop songs. And that is exactly how long it took for Liam Ahmed's empire of lies to crumble into dust. I sat on the edge of my bed, the phone burning a hole in my hand. The timer on my screen counted down. 9:45, 9:44. I watched the 3 dots on WhatsApp appear, disappear, and appear again. He was spiraling. For the first time in our relationship, the silence wasn't a weapon he was using against me. It was the sound of him choking on his own panic. Finally, a message came through. Liam. Emma, wait. Let's not be rash. We can talk about this. I was angry. I didn't mean any of it. Please think about our families. Think about your dad's heart. I let out a short, dry laugh. He was still doing it. Still trying to use my father's health as a shield. But the shield was broken. Me. You have 8 minutes, Liam. I want to see the transfer confirmation. And I want a screenshot of the email you just sent to Sophie confessing everything. Liam, I can't tell Sophie. She'll get me fired. She's the VP's niece. Emma, please, I'll do anything. I'll come back. We can start over. I love you. I love you. 3 words that used to make my knees weak. Now they sounded like a desperate plea from a man drowning in his own sewage. Me. 5 minutes. I didn't blink. I didn't waver. I was channeling every ounce of pain, every skipped meal, every tear shed in the dark, and forging it into a blade of resolve. Suddenly, a notification pinged at the top of my screen. Bank alert. Deposit of $8,500 received. He had drained it. He had sent back everything. The rent money, the loan, even the money he had stolen from our joint account. He must have maxed out his credit cards or borrowed from Sophie to do it. I didn't care. Liam, sent. Check your account. I sent it all back. Now please delete the emails, delete the screenshots. I'm begging. I looked at the money in my account. It wasn't just currency. It was my father's dignity returned. But then I looked at the second part of my demand, the confession. Me. Where's the confession to Sophie? Liam. I can't do that, Emma. It will ruin my life. You got your money. We are even. Just walk away. We are even. He thought this was a transaction. He thought he could buy his way out of the abuse. He thought that because I had the money, I would go back to being the silent, compliant woman who protected his reputation. But he forgot who he was dealing with. He forgot he was dealing with a woman who had already walked through fire once. I opened the email app. The draft was ready. Attached were the screenshots of the plan. Attached was the evidence of his visa fraud. Attached were the timestamps of his abuse. I didn't send it to Sophie. She was a victim too, in a way, but she had been cruel. She had called me a stalker. She needed to know, but not from me. I sent it to the one place that mattered more to Liam than any woman. I sent it to his HR department, and I blind copied the Immigration Bureau's tip line. Send. I watched the progress bar. Whoosh, gone. I picked up the phone and typed one last message to Liam. Me. I got the money, but we aren't even. You stole 6 months of my life. You tried to steal my sanity. You can keep Sophie. You can keep the lie, but you don't get to keep your mask. I just forwarded everything to your compliance officer. Good luck with the king life. Then, for the first time in 6 months, I did the blocking. Block contact. I put the phone down. The room was silent, but it wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of the past. It was the silence of a battlefield after the cannons have stopped firing. The smoke was clearing, and I was still standing. The next morning, the real war began. The war at home. I walked into the living room where my parents were having tea. They looked up, smiling, expecting me to tell them about my visa interview, expecting me to be the good daughter. Dad, Mom, I said, my voice steady. Sit down. We need to talk. I connected my phone to the TV screen. I didn't show them the intimate videos. I had deleted those into oblivion, but I showed them the email chain. The plan. Don't worry, Mom. Once I get the residency, I'll file for divorce. She's mentally unstable. We need the money, not the baby. I watched their faces. My mother went pale, her hand flying to her mouth. My father, my gentle, quiet father. He read the lines over and over again. He took off his glasses. He wiped them. He put them back on. He looked at the transaction history I showed him next. The hotels, the jewelry, the dates that matched the days I was crying in my room. My father's voice trembled. He called you unstable? He planned this, Dad, I said, kneeling beside his chair. From the start, he and his mother, they used us. They used me. I waited for the log kia kahanga. What will people say? Speech. I waited for them to say, maybe it's a misunderstanding, or tried to adjust. But my father stood up. He walked over to the landline phone. He unplugged it from the wall. Then he turned to me, tears streaming down his face. I am sorry, he whispered. I am so sorry, Emma. I failed you. I was so afraid of society that I threw you to a wolf. No, Dad, I said, hugging him as he broke down. You didn't know, but we know now, and I am not going back. I don't care what people say. I don't care if I am divorced twice or 10 times. I will not let anyone treat me like this again. My mother stood up and wiped her eyes. The fear in her face was replaced by a strange, hard look, the look of a mother whose cub had been attacked. Let them talk, she said, her voice shaking but fierce. Let the neighbors talk. If Liam's mother calls here again, I will tell her exactly who is unstable. It was a small victory, but it felt like a revolution. 2 weeks later, the news traveled fast. It started with a LinkedIn update. Liam was open to work. Then came the rumors. He had been fired for gross misconduct. His work visa was revoked. He was being sent back. Not to Canada, to his home country. Sophie had dumped him publicly, posting a vague quote about wolves in sheep's clothing before scrubbing him from her feed entirely. He tried to contact me. Emails from random addresses, calls from unknown numbers. I changed my number. I set my email to filter his name directly to trash. He was a ghost, a bad dream that was fading in the morning light. I was sitting in a lawyer's office in downtown Toronto. The papers were in front of me. Petition for divorce, grounds, adultery and cruelty, evidence attached. The lawyer, a sharp woman in her 40s, looked at me. You have a very strong case, Emma. With the fraud evidence, he won't contest it. He can't afford to step foot in a courtroom. I signed my name. Emma. Just Emma. Not Emma the wife, not Emma the victim, just me. I walked out of the office building and into the bustling street. The air was crisp and cold, typical for Canada, but it felt fresh. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs until they hurt. I walked to a nearby coffee shop. I ordered a latte, full fat, with whipped cream. I sat by the window and watched the people rushing by. I saw a reflection in the glass. She was still a little healthy. Her face was still a little round from the thyroid meds, but her shoulders were back. Her head was high. Her eyes were bright, burning with a fire that had been rekindled from the ashes. I took out my phone. I opened the Notes app. I had a list titled, Things I Lost. 1. A husband. 2. Some money recovered. 3. My dignity recovered. I deleted the list. I started a new one. Things I found. 1. My voice. 2. My courage. 3. My freedom. I realized then that the damaged goods label was never mine to carry. It was his projection. He was the one with the cracks in his soul, trying to break me to fill them. But you cannot break a woman who has already rebuilt herself once. You only make her stronger. You only teach her that she is unbreakable. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my old boss. Hey, Emma. Heard you might be looking for work. We have a senior manager position opening up. The team misses you. Interested? I smiled. A real, genuine smile that crinkled the corners of my eyes. I typed back. I'm interested, but I have one condition. I need next week off. I'm taking a solo trip. Deal. Where are you going? I looked at the map on my wall. Europe? No, too soon. I looked at the blue sky outside. Somewhere with a beach, I typed. Somewhere I can learn to fly again. I finished my coffee. I stood up and adjusted my coat. The nightmare was over. The scar on my heart would remain, yes, but scars aren't ugly. Scars are just proof that you survived something that tried to kill you. They are medals of honor. I walked out the door, into the sunlight, and for the first time in a year, I didn't look back. I stepped forward, into my life, into my future. I am Emma. I fell, I broke, I burned, but watch me fly.